This chapter is about environment properties and one scene property called cross-section. And this lesson is about ambient. Ambient is the color scheme for a layer or for an individual object. Now, just as there's confusion regarding environment because there's environment properties and an environment texture file, there's also a little bit of confusion about ambient. There's a global ambient that applies to all the meshes inside a single layer, and then each individual mesh can have its own ambient. So I'll clarify all this in this lesson. To follow along, let's go to Working Files, let's go to Photoshop Projects, and open up a project we've used before in a different circumstance, opacity.psd. What we have here are three meshes in a single layer. So let's go up to Environment. Now Environment applies to the entire layer as opposed to the individual meshes within the layer. And over in Environment, we have something called Global Ambient. We have several other things here as well, which we'll cover in upcoming lessons, but we're going to focus on the Global Ambient and the individual mesh ambients here in this lesson. Global Ambient sets only color. There are no sliders, there are no files associated with it, just color. And notice the color is black by default. If you take a look at one of the meshes here, click on it with the selection tool, once, twice. You take a look at its ambient, it too is black. All 3D objects start off with a default ambient setting of black. So let's go back to the environment here and click on this color swatch and pick a different color besides black. I'm going to go up to red. Now, I don't want to go right to the corner like that because that makes red absolutely red, and that overrides things. When you have a pure color, that tends to create issues down the road where things don't work together. So I'm going to pull it down a little bit and pick something that's not exactly pure red or any pure color like that. Kind of pull it right there and click OK, and nothing happens. That's because each individual mesh here has its own ambient setting, and those settings are black by default. So as long as they're black, nothing will happen when you change the global ambient. And this might throw you off at first, but now I think you're going to get it. Let's go down here and get the sphere here once, twice, over here to its ambient and click on that. And now I'm just going to change it from black to something other than pure black. I'm just going to increase the brightness a little bit here, and suddenly that purple is going to start showing up on here. Go up a little bit farther. You can see how the purple now is growing in brightness because the global ambient is set to that purple color. See that works? I'll just click OK here. So now the global ambient has taken charge here because we increased the brightness of the color of this ambient. We didn't change the color of the ambient, we just increased the brightness, the grayscale basically, of that ambient. And now we see that this sphere has this kind of purple cast to it. This white spot here is from the lighting. If I click up here on the light, like that, here's the controller for the light, the infinite light. I can move it around, see how the shadow moves? That white spot moves accordingly, like so. I'll click away from the light, and then it goes off, and then you can see that white spot again. Now if I turn off that light, let's see what happens. Turn off the eyeball there for the light, and now you see the lighting for the scene comes from something called the image-based light. If I go back to Environment, take a look at the properties here, there's something called an IBL, image-based light. So the image-based light by default is black. It's actually kind of a grayscale. Right now it's set to dark gray, so it's giving kind of a dark gray cast to the entire scene. If I increase the intensity, you'll see that it can get brighter like that. Just a flat light that colors everything equally. No particular direction to it. It's as if these were 2D objects that are being illuminated a typical way that a 2D object would be illuminated in Photoshop. Like that. Let's go back and turn on that light again. And see what happens if we change the color of the ambient of this object. Click on that once, twice. Go to ambient here. And instead of leaving it at neutral and gray, let's move it toward a color. Now we've got purple for the global ambient. Let's make it kind of obviously different and go to green, something like that. Start pulling it toward green. You'll see these guys interact. See a little bit of green kind of down here in the corner a little bit, depending on the brightness of the green. Notice I pull it to the left. It adds a little less green and lets the other color shine through. Let's change a different color to, let's say, yellow. Yellow is working with the purple now and creating this kind of orange. Like so, a little less yellow, more gray, and it becomes more like purple. That's how those guys interact. I want to change the ambient for this backdrop here. Clicking it once, again. That highlights the front inflation, which is what we're looking at here. Let's go over to its ambient, which is black by default. Change that. Let's change it to something really obvious like bright red. Right on there. And what's happening? Why is it only red here and not red here? That's because the light is blowing it out. The light is so bright, it's shining so directly on this flat thing here. There's no curve to it to allow you to have a little bit of a shading, but it just blows out the red color. Let me take a look at the light again here. It's pointing at the wall like that. Notice that the shadow shows up. If I go down below the floor, you see the shadow of the floor shining on it. If I go over the edge like this, now it's turning red because the light is not shining on it directly. That's how that works. And finally, we'll take a look at the floor here. Click the floor one more time. Its front inflation. Change its ambient color to something else, like blue. There it is showing up down there, mixing with the purple, the one above it. Let's make it light blue like that. And it's showing up just fine because the light is not shining on it directly. Go back to the light. Light's kind of pointing off to the back like that. If I shine it directly, it'll eventually overpower the color. But wherever there's a shadow, the blue and the purple mixed together show up like that. See how the backdrop has its own red color, whereas the floor has its own purple color. You can have each individual mesh have its own ambient. You can also give the entire scene an ambient, and then depending on the lighting and depending on the intensity of the colors of those ambients, they all can work together, or they can fight each other as well. So you do need to kind of work out exactly how you want things to play together. You can always adjust things on the fly, which is good. You can always go to a particular one like this, click on its ambient, and as you adjust it, you can see the differences showing up instantly there in the background. So you can make your adjustments on the fly to suit your purposes. So that's how you work with Ambient, both on a global basis when you work on the Properties panel and also on an individual mesh basis.